Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star. Eddie Olczyk coming up, former Leaf, an American, still an American, not a former American.
Yes.
Not a former American and former Leaf.
You assume, I mean.
Yeah, he's still an American, but and once a Leaf, always a Leaf, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's for sure.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Once you're in the club, you can't leave the club.
You're in the club.
Right.
So I guess from his standpoint, he's like, hey, we got a new captain up there now.
Yeah.
Auston Matthews.
He happens to be a guy that carries a Stars and Stripes passport.
Yes, he does. Which I'm sure Eddie loves. And I know Eddie's a big fan of the way he plays and always tracking the Leafs and kind of rooting for the Leafs. He's got a lot of rooting interest in the league. Like Eddie's been kicking around the NHL forever.
Oh, yeah.
Great ambassador for the game. And Kings played this weekend as well. And I think Eddie's planning on being up there or at least tracking it. You know Eddie's tracking it.
Oh, you know he's going to be laying down.
Yes. Eddie's got some horses that he likes. So we'll ask Eddie, what he's got his eye on here. What did you make of the press conference yesterday? You hear everything you expected to hear out of Matthews and Tree Living and Tavares?
I mean, yes. I think it went about as well as it could have gone. I think the only hint of what we all know to be what we all know was not as simple as they made it sound, right? The idea that this was all voluntary and everything's good. I being around pro sports, as long as I've been around pro sports, I just can't imagine that there was not some acrimony and that there would not be some acrimony in any situation like this. And I think the only thing that really pointed to that was Tavares talking about it by pulling out a prepared statement.
Right, exactly.
And reading the prepared statement.
Yes.
Because doesn't that kind of say, like, maybe I shouldn't talk about this off the cuff. Maybe I need to make sure I say the right thing here.
Yeah, I think that's certainly one way to look at it. Another thing I found about the prepared statement is he made sure to talk about his own game and his own capabilities within that statement.
Yeah.
So that could have been a part of it, too. If I go off the cuff, I may start talking about Austin too much, and I may forget to actually discuss the fact that I'm still John Tavares and don't sleep on me here.
Yeah.
Captain or otherwise, I'm still here to play. And a lot of people are trying to connect the dots on if this has any meaning on his future in Toronto. And I don't see how you could see it as like a positive vibe on his future.
No.
Right? Like the team is literally saying, we're going to have a different role for you. And the time is right for someone else to have the role you used to have. That doesn't mean it's like 100% concluded he won't be here or will be here one way or the other. But he certainly is not like in the best of standings right now compared to, where he would have been in the past.
No.
And he's not getting any younger. He'll be 34. I don't know.
I mean, it's a bit of a make good year for him, right? Like, what value do you want to attach to a John Tavares contract extension at this point? Like, it's not an easy number to come up with.
Well, and even putting the value aside, this is what I find a bit confusing is that there's this big debate over, all right, what should the number be? Before you even get to that, should he be here at all?
Yeah.
Like that's, again, the core four, like this is where there's a divide in the fan base, and there always will be because as we've talked about countless times, there's the eternal optimist, eternal pessimist, and then there's people all in the middle. But I find, just seeing what I'm seeing online and speaking to people, anecdotally, it generally is like a conversation. Well, what would the number be? And what would make sense for John? It's like, why are you even talking about what makes sense for John? Like, shouldn't it be the team first? Like, have we not gotten to that point? Are we not exhausted with the core four? How are you not? How can you not be? Now, again, it can change and then revitalized, and there's a lot of energy, and it's great, and they go on this great run. Amazing. Then all of a sudden, maybe you love it again. But like the idea of thinking, well, you got to, hey, it'll be a team-friendly deal, so you got to do it now, a 3 or 4 year deal. And then what if they go out in the first round again? And it's like, what are you doing?
Well, that's the thing.
Like, I can't make any sense of that idea.
I'm with you. Like, you can say a lot of things about the captaincy changing. You could say, look, it's overdue. And I think Matthews has long been the captain in waiting. Probably should have had it 5 years ago. We all know what happened there. But this is not the real change, the everything is on the table kind of change. And they use that everything is on the table phrase in the postmortem when it was Pelly and Shanahan and Tree Living standing on the days talking about another failed season. Well, everything is on the table, and guess what? It's still on the table. Nothing's left the table.
Right.
All the whole team that was there is essentially coming back. So you're right. Like the idea that anything substantial will change in the result without anything substantial changing in the makeup of the roster, it's delusional.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm.
And we've got 8 years of evidence that tells us that.
Yeah. And that's where, like, I'm not even willing to get to a conversation about what the price would be. Like, I think, again.
It sounds like they are, though.
No, I understand. And there have been some reports indicating that both parties will talk. And maybe, listen, I'm not putting anything past the Leafs, the way that they've operated, the way that they go about. They clearly have a lot of time for these players and these people, and they've invested in them, and they believe in them. Okay. Like, they believe in them, and they're going to continue to believe in them. And maybe they will extend it. And I would assume, if you're going to do that with Tavares, then maybe Mitch would be next. And it's just going to, they'll keep the band together and they're just going to keep going. And it'll be, 12 years of it, 13 years of it.
I can't imagine. Like this, look, we've said this many times on this station, but this has to be the year that determines that, right? Like there's no way they can keep going if this year ends in heartbreak again. Right? There's just no way.
Yeah.
Like Pelly's in town now. Pelly, the new CEO, needs time, right? But this year will be sufficient time.
Do you think so?
For him to make some decisions about who's running this team, how it's been run, and where they need to go.
So do you think they would even be allowed to make these contract extensions?
Well,
right
that's
now?
a good question.
Do you think Pelly would say, no, you're not allowed to do it until after the year, until I tell you can't?
You're going to have to make the case. And guess what? When you make that case, you're forming your record with the CEO, right? You're making your bed. And I just can't imagine with Pelly talking the way he's talking about winning being everything, and we're not here to sell jerseys. And, he told me we need to win. Brendan Shanahan knows that. They got to win, man.
They got to win. That would be great.
Fast.
I think that's what everyone's waiting for. All right, here's former Maple Leaf, the NHL on TNT hockey analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Here's Eddie Olczyk. Eddie, how you doing?
What's up, Bryan? How you doing, buddy?
We're doing well, man. We had some news up here. An American's the captain of the Maple Leafs. What do you make of it?
Well, there was a time back in the day, and as you know, I did play in the day that I was asked the question, would you like to be a captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs? And I'm going back to when I was there, obviously, in the late 80s. And, who wouldn't, right? I don't care where you're from. If you love the game and you're, I would never call myself a historian, but, somebody that I think knows the history of the game. To have that opportunity, to be a captain, let alone a captain of an original six franchise in the Toronto Maple Leafs. That would have been, that would have been awesome. Now, obviously, it didn't happen for me. I ended up being one of the alternates, and Rob Ramage, when we picked up Rammer, he became the captain, and obviously he had a lot more experience and what have you. But, am I surprised? No. I think that when there is change, that has happened. Obviously, more directly with the players. I heard you guys talking about Keith upstairs, but behind the bench, obviously, and then the conversations between Brad and again, just reading, just like everybody else and listening, the decision and the conversation with Johnny T that it's time, and I can't argue the decision or how it came about. Do I think John Tavares will be a Maple Leaf after next year? I don't, but that's just one man's opinion. But this is Auston Matthews' team, and big news for sure, and awesome for him, and awesome for his family, and he's got a lot of support there. Obviously, you look at the guys that they brought in, here recently in free agency. You got some unbelievable leaders. Chris Tanev is an unbelievable leader. I don't know Oliver Ekman-Larsson all that well, but anybody that I know that has been around him or played with him, he does have those qualities of, being there and being a leader. And so he's got a great supporting cast. And look at John Tavares has always carried himself unbelievably anytime I've been around him or seen him. So, I don't think he's going to go sideways or not want to, help because look, there is the added pressure. There's no doubt, but I like the move, and we'll see kind of how it all plays out because my expectations for what they've done here in the summertime, and who knows what's going to happen here moving forward, and we all know who and what the elephant in the room is here moving forward, but I like what they've done, and I like to hire the coach, and my expectations are that they should make a run. Do they have a hole or holes? Yeah, sure. I mean, what team doesn't? Mm-hmm. But to me, I like what they've done, and they've had. I think they've had a hell of an off season, and with the move now to Austin, for what it's worth, I like what's happened.
Well, Eddie, given your incredible experience in so many different dressing rooms over the year, what is it worth to just that little piece of fabric that was on John Tavares' jersey is now on Auston Matthews' sweater? What is that actually worth?
Well, I think, the obvious is that, one guy is, so to speak, is on the 18th fairway, and the other guy is probably on the 9th fairway.
Right.
I think that's what, really, I think, and that's how I read it, again, from the outside. And again, that's somebody that has played in that great city and played a long time and broadcast and coached. So, have a pretty good feel of what's going on around the league. And I just think it's, it is a passing of the torch and a changing of the guard. But, the expectations, they've fallen short here, and they've made a massive change behind the bench. They've made massive moves on their team to upgrade their back end where they had, probably their greatest need. Losing Bertuzzi, I think that's a very, I don't know what the talk was or is, about the loss of him, but he does give you, he does give you a little bit of a different look. I'd like to think over his career he plays the same way, whether the dome is open or closed, if you guys know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, in a nutshell, like I said, it's you're giving it to the guy that you feel has the ability to be the leader of that team, and hopefully Austin can push some other guys and make them better, and the Leafs can make a run, because that's what the expectations are. And because if they don't, again, and I heard you guys just just right before you brought me on, I caught where you guys were talking, and I would surmise and would agree that you got to make some sort of a run here. I thought it was a couple of years ago, but obviously I was wrong, and not that matters. But if you don't, then I think that there's a chance that I don't think they have a choice, but you got to really make some major drastic changes. And look, some players have the ability that you can go ahead and just say, hey, you're going to A or B, or you're going to have to go to somebody that maybe doesn't have no move or a no trade, and you got to say, okay, where do you want to go? And then you got to try to make the best deal you can. Because even when I just think about everything that's happened here, and Bryan, I know we talked about this with O-Dog and with Noodles, a couple of years back, is I'm still trying to comprehend how Auston Matthews was allowed to get to unrestricted free agency, or at least, at least get to within, 100 yards of it, and then now, if I'm not mistaken, Mitch Marner is going to be an UFA, an unrestricted free agent, when he is turning, what does he turn, just 26 recently, or 27? Yep. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent at 27 or 28, whatever the number is. That's prime real estate. That's the one thing, is having been in management and just, being a hockey guy. I just find that really, really hard to believe that these guys are getting to that number, and there's a chance that they could walk and you get nothing for them. Because if you get nothing for them, now again, I know Matthews re-signed, so that's not. But again, going into that, nobody knew. I guess there was no guarantee, but he put his cards on the table, and he signed a 5-year deal or whatever it ended up being. But I know I'm off the tracks here, but like I said, I just believe that they gotta. I'm expecting a run. That's probably the best way to say it, and regardless of what that means. I'm expecting a run this year. What's the run? I don't know, but to me, there is no doubt in my mind that they have the team to be able to have it, to give themselves a chance to get to the final 4 teams in the National Hockey League. That's my gut and my feel for this team. Now, whether or not that happens, only time will tell.
How much of that do you place at the feet of Craig Berube? In other words, the fact that Craig's the coach now. I mean, how much faith do you have in him being the one to lead them to that promised land?
A lot of faith. Yeah, a lot of faith. Obviously, the guy's won recently. He's had every type of player, right, Bryan? I mean, he's had every type of player. He's had. Now, I mean, I don't think he's had. I don't think he's ever had a guy like Auston Matthews, but you know what I mean. Like, he's had some really talented players and guys that have won, and he's had some experienced guys. He's had young guys. Yeah, there's no in between with Craig Berube. And look, I was lucky enough to be on his team at TNT for almost a year, and I've known him over the years. I mean, I would have loved to play with the guy, but unfortunately, he was always chasing me around the rink, telling me he was going to, end my career pretty quickly. So, but that's the way that the league was back then. And any guys that have played with him, and not everybody's going to like him, not everybody's going to love him, but that's okay. But I just think that he has a pretty darn good pulse of who and what his players are. And that to me is the biggest key. And I think if you don't have respect for the guy, for what he's done in his career, let alone in playing in Toronto too, which I think certainly helps. But having played in the league as long as he did, and being the ultimate team player, and winning as a coach, and being an assistant coach in the league for a period of time, that falls at the feet of the player. So I think he will push buttons, he will challenge, he will test, and I think he will get the best out of. You just hope you get the best out of the majority of the players, right? And somebody once said, you try to keep the guys that like you, away from the guys that really don't believe in what you're selling or whatever. But I like the hire. I thought it was great. And I'll be honest with you, there's some other teams out there that had a chance to sign Craig Berube, and they just bailed. They chinched out on the financials, and they just didn't want to make the commitment. And sometimes things are meant to be, and I think a lot of people kind of felt it would be a very good match, and I think it is an excellent match. And yeah, there may be a few potholes. Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be some guys that you might not see play for 7-8 minutes. Well, you know what? That's the way that it goes, and but there'll be a lot of consistency, and I think that's all any player could want.
Absolutely. With Eddie Olczyk. All right, pucks and ponies. Pucks step aside. Ponies step in here. The Kings played this weekend. I love it. We know the post positions are out. There's some great ponies going down at Woodbine. It's going to be electric there this weekend. Who do we like, Eddie? Give us a couple of horses we should have our eye on here.
Actually, you know what? If people are going to be tuning in, I don't know if it's good or bad, but you're going to get to see my mug on Sportsnet.
Oh wow! There you go, Eddie.
I'm coming in to work the show, so really excited about that, and get to join the family there and all the people at Woodbine and Rob Platt for bringing me in. So hopefully we can make some people some money. But I'll be honest with you, Bryan. Like it's a super competitive race now. I know the weather forecast. I'm sure your golf game might be delayed on Saturday or whatever, from what I'm hearing. So that's one thing. I think it's still a work in progress. But look, the horse to beat is My Boy Prince or Mark Cassie. I think is going to be the 7 horse. Looks just like a world beater. But I think there are a lot of options. I actually like a horse. Midnight Mascot, which will be number 5, another horse for Mark Cassie, the trainer, who's having an unbelievable summer at Woodbine and all across North America. So those are 2 horses there that I would probably say you have to use. And as you know, I'm more of a My Boy Prince is going to be the favorite. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But let's see how the track is playing. Let's see what the conditions are. See if there's any biases as far as how they're running. But I really think that Midnight Mascot, don't quote me, I'm at the airport getting ready to fly into TO, but I think was a morning line of 10-1. So, if you can put, a toonie on that, maybe you can turn that toonie into $20, $21, $22.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out from there. But I promise all of my wagers will be around the 7, My Boy Prince, and the 5, Midnight Mascot.
I love it. Yeah, I'm seeing him at 10-1 right now. And My Boy Prince, like you said, a pretty big favorite. Essex Serpent, I think, is going off at 2-1. But
I think that horse will get some calls in there, Bryan.
Yeah.
I think that because that horse has some speed, and I think will certainly, the quickness of the race, and a couple of days out, you're looking, and again, how is the track going to be playing? There is going to be moisture on the Tapeta, so all those things kind of play into it. So we'll have a good hour and a half pregame show, and then we'll get on there and have our pick. But I'm really, really excited. I remember the days when I was in Toronto and in Winnipeg of being at that time the Queen's Plate, and then watching it all these years later and having an affinity for Woodbine and the unbelievable racing there. So I'm just really excited about being a part of the King's Plate tomorrow on Saturday.
Awesome.
So Eddie, if you're talking to people about sort of how to approach laying some wagers on a race, like, do you have a strict philosophy that you stick to? Like, are you betting, win, play, show? Or are you betting a lot of exotics like the Triactas? Or how do you look at it?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think I usually look at any race, whether I'm looking at the last race at Saratoga today or I'm looking at the King's Plate on Saturday. It's like if I really have a strong opinion on a horse or in a leg of a particular wager, I might end up maybe pressing a little bit more on that, and then just instead of trying to hit a single or a double, Dave, I'm probably trying to hit a 3-run homer or grand slam where I will put some horses in behind the horse that I like. There's still a way to turn in. If you really like the favorite, again, My Boy Prince may be 4 to 5 even money. So meaning if you bet 2, you win 2, you put 4 in your pocket, everybody's happy. But if you want to turn that even money horse, that plus 100 horse, if we want to use like sportsbook odds, if you want to turn that plus 100 into plus 800 or more than that, then you start putting horses underneath. So, like, I'm a big exactor player where I try to pick the top 2 finishers and then, turning, maybe a 4 or 5 to 1 into a 35 or 40 to 1 shot in that particular race. So, look, they have the 20-cent wager in Woodbine, which is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. So, if you want to take 5 horses and box them up, you're in a position there where, you spend a little over $11 and you put 5 horses in there for 20 cents. If you get a bomber in there, if you get a long shot in there, even though you're using one of the favorites, you can turn that so-called 20-cent bet, but technically you're investing $11.20. What's wrong with getting 10 or 15 times your wager? That's a pretty good gig. I heard Bryan's as good as anybody is on the stock exchange up there in TO there. He's just looking to make,
that's right, man.
20-30% on his money every 60 minutes. So
that's my move.
That's the way he rolls.
That's how I live, man.
But that's how I would look at the race and try to, or any race, is to say, okay, I'm trying to look at 1 or 2 horses and try to turn this so-called 5 or 6 to 1 plus 600 into plus 3,000 if that's, if that's at all possible.
I love that's giving me flashbacks to the dog tracks down in Florida, man. I used to go put down just mass. It would be like a $2 limit and it would pay $16,000. Like, I'm not sure this is going to work, but why not? Give it a shot.
Yeah.
When in Rome.
Look at the last time I checked, the horses do not know their odds.
That's right.
So, now maybe Mr. Ed did back in the day, or maybe you see the movie Let It Ride, if anybody's looking for something to do on the weekend besides watching our coverage for the King's Plate. You ever see the movie with Richard Dreyfuss and Terry Garr? I would encourage you to watch the movie Let It Ride if you like a little action and you love the ponies like we do. Absolutely.
Pucks and Ponies with Eddie O. Great stuff, buddy. We appreciate you doing this. We'll do it again soon.
Okay, boys. Thanks for having me. Say hi.
You got it. There's Eddie Olczyk joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Build your next dream Toyota at Maple Toyota. Check out Maple Toyota's pre-owned inventory arriving daily. It's time to Toyota. Visit mapletoyota.com. Yeah, we'll see, man.
Sounded like Eddie had an eye on the last race at Saratoga.
Yeah, just
as he was talking to us.
Wheels up, Saratoga.
Get a couple of bucks down on the last race at Saratoga.
Eddie's the real deal Holyfield, man, when it comes to the ponies. There's actually a pony. I'm surprised he didn't jump on this. There's a pony named Bedard. That's the 10th position. Yeah, Bedard. Maybe that guy's from Chicago or got roots in Chicago. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or BC for that matter.
You have to believe that.
Yeah.
That is the
Gotta be. Connor Bedard, right?
Yeah. It is named after. It is named after
Connor Bedard?
Yeah.
Does he get any action on that? Does he get 10% of the winnings?
Yeah. That's a good question.
He should.
Very good question.
He should.
Yeah. Interesting.
All right. Well, there you go.
Well,
yeah.
and actually, it's funny. This is a colt sired by Nyquist, another horse named after an NHL player, Gustav Nyquist.
Gustav Nyquist.
Yeah.
All right.
This is a real hockey-loving ownership group.
I love it.
There you
All
go.
right. Well, yeah, Bedard. I might have to put a little scratch down on him. We'll see what happens.
Well,
but yeah, it's going to be fun. The
30
weather
to
doesn't
1.
look great, but
Bedard at 30
30
to 1.
good odds. That's the kind of thing Eddie's talking about, right? My boy Prince, and then maybe sneak in Bedard and try to box it and figure out how it's all going to play out.
The 20-cent box.
Yeah, that's the play. Like if you're just putting down like you might as well go for a grand
Right.
slam.
Yeah.
20 cents to pay $1.20. What's the point?
What is the point?
20 cents can pay $400.
Yes.
If you do like you start to really get crazy and bet 4 horses and they're long odds and it comes together. It's a once in a lifetime, but you never know.
Well, you don't. Yeah. You don't.
the thing.
It's like it's a lottery ticket that's a lot more fun than the lottery.
Right, exactly. Because it's live action and you're watching it. You can track it. And yeah, so there you go. All right, Eddie Olczyk. We appreciate that as always. Charles Davis coming up. Get his take on Matt Milano being out likely for the season, maybe returning in December for the Bills. Seeing some news that Aaron Rodgers and the Jets looking pretty good in camp, looking very crisp, very sharp.
Questioning your pick of the Bills as AFC champions.
East champs. I still think they hold on to that division. We'll catch up with Charles, get into that and more. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Ryan Dempster coming up in about a half an hour. Some reports out there that Major League Baseball is looking into the idea of forcing starting pitchers to pitch at least 6 innings in the future before they can come out of the game. And I have a feeling Dempster's going to have a take or two on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get to that with Ryan. We'll get his take on Jays Cubs at Wrigley. Like, he was a great player for a bunch of teams. I think of him as a Cub first and foremost.
For sure.
Red Sox. He's a really good Red Sox as well, but he was great with the Cubs. And I guess he does a great Harry Carey impression.
Oh.
I don't know how many people, like Harry Carey seems to be, like if you're under the age of 30, do you have any idea who Harry Carey is?
Probably not, right?
35.
It's been a while, right?
Yeah. Harry was
been...
the man in the 70s and 80s. He had the most distinct voice. He loved Budweiser, too. He just loved beers. Like, he'd booze, I think, during play. Like, he'd be calling games, like day games at Wrigley, and
cooler of beer at his feet. Cooler of beer at his feet. But yeah, he died in 1998. I was just looking it up.
It's been a while, man.
It's been some time.
If
you're not of a certain age, you do not know what the hell we're talking about.
You probably have no idea. Yeah, but Harry Carey was great. Tough news for the Bills today. Matt Milano, linebacker, who only played 5 games last year, tore his ACL, I think it was, blew his knee out last year.
Blew his knee.
Has torn his bicep.
Oh.
Sounds like he's out for the year. Could return in December, but could be a big hit. And the Bills, a lot of turnover with the Bills. And to chat about it, we're joined now by former NFL on CBS analyst. Here's Charles Davis. How you doing, Charles?
I'm doing well. How are you guys? And before we get started, I mean, you can't lead in and I'm listening to Harry Carey talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to weigh in on Harry Carey. My goodness.
Please do.
What you're saying from my standpoint, I think you guys are spot on. If you're under 30, everyone's going, "Who's Harry Carey?" like what's a Harry Carey? I mean, they have no earthly idea. But if you saw the movie Major League and Bob Uecker, who was a broadcaster, right, for many, many years before, of course, he started. Mr. Belvedere, I mean, a staple on ABC at one point.
Yeah.
If you didn't see it, look it up and then say to yourself, that was on TV? But anyway, moving right along. When Bob in Major League, you remember there was one scene where he is hammered calling the game.
Yep.
And he says to his partner, remember Monty, who never said anything?
Yeah.
And he's like, he's like, oh, what do you think about that, Monty? Yes. They don't call him the best color analyst in the game for nothing, right? That was Monty. And you remember Bob was like, Monty, you got to take it because I am in the bag. And he collapses on the desk and just drops. I think that was a nod to Harry Carey.
Yes.
I really do. I think that was a moving nod to Harry Carey because you're right, Harry. I mean, to do a Harry Carey impression, you didn't have to be good at it. You just had to act like you were hammered.
So good.
So if you do Harry Carey, if you go to another generation, that was Foster Brooks, who made his living as a comedian as a drunk, right? He was always doing that. If you were another generation, it was Otis in the Andy Griffith Show, maybe Mayberry RFD in the Andy Griffith Show. Otis, you know where the keys are. Go on in, lock yourself up for the night. That was back when we looked at drunks as funny.
Right.
Nowadays,
different
you can't
story.
play drunk. You
Different
can't do
story.
it. Harry Carey doesn't play in today's world, so it has to be all of us old people who remember him.
That's
so anyway,
right.
moving on.
And we'll never forget him.
Exactly. How about this for a transition? Harry Carey to Matt Milano.
Yes.
And somewhere the Milano family is like, what? And I was like, listen, we've known each other for a little while. Matt's from where I live in terms of Orlando, Florida. And I saw him come through playing high school football, going to BC as a safety, turning into a linebacker in the NFL, turning into not just a linebacker, but a Pro Bowl All-Pro linebacker, had a magnificent career. The leg injury last year happened in London, game in London. He misses the rest of the year. They can't wait to get him back because the linebacker core has gone through a lot of changes. I mean, Tremaine Edmonds a couple of years ago, Tyrell Dodson last year. I just saw Tyrell Dodson playing with Seattle this year. Just go on and on and on with all the different changes. He was the mainstay and the glue and a person you build your defense around and who the young kids look to. I'm sick to my stomach that second year in a row, it looks like he's going to miss a season. It just doesn't seem fair. This guy plays the game the right way, plays the game hard, has turned himself into one of the better players in the league. I just hate that for him, and obviously I hate that for the Bills' defense. And I'm just going to tell you, guys, if anyone is entertaining thoughts in the AFC East of going and getting Buffalo, this is a year you better go get them, okay? Because Brandon Beane is one of the better GMs in the league. They know how to retool. They draft well. They put together teams. Right now, they're most vulnerable. I still think they're very good, but this Milano news is devastating for them.
Yeah, I said prior to coming on, having you on, Charles, I still think they're going to win the AFC East. I know they had to steal. They kind of, I don't know if they stole it. They won a lot of big ball games late to get it, and Miami came back to the pack a little bit. But I still got faith.
No one's 3 games down with 5 games left to play in the NFL and wins the division.
Right.
And Buffalo did that last year.
Right. So I'm still bullish on them. I mean, I know.
Me too.
So where are you at with the AFC East in general? What's the pecking order for you? Is it Bills, Miami?
Buffalo.
Where do you
It's
take
still
it?
Buffalo.
Yeah.
Look, I'm still with you on that. It's still Buffalo to me because I think people are going to look at them, and as I've said, they are their most vulnerable. So if you want to go get them, now's the chance. But that doesn't mean it's easily done. They may play a different style this year. I think Josh Allen is going to take on the challenge of making a so-called lack of a receiving core much better around him. Joe Brady as an offense coach showed last year that running the football is in his DNA, which is in the DNA of the head coach Sean McDermott. So they have a good match together. So James Cook, I love Ray Davis as a draft choice out of Kentucky. Offensive line's pretty good. They made some changes there, obviously, but I like the changes that they've made. I just think that this is a team that may be more tight end centric. Okay, I mean, Dawson Knox is there. But the kid they drafted last year in the first round, I think, has a chance to be a star. Okay? So when you put it all together for them, the defensive secondary is going to have to answer a lot of questions. And if they do, they're going to be a hard out as they usually are. So I'm still saying Buffalo, and I'm eager to see whether Miami or the Jets is the next one in the queue. Which one is it going to be? Because I feel like people are overlooking the Jets this year. So much hype last year, lose Rodgers in 4 plays, and they struggle the rest of the year, still managed to win 7 games and a couple of big ones. But if they get Rodgers the entire year, we may not be hyping them, but that's a good football team.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of hype, Charles, you were a draftee of the most hyped team in the National Football League, the Dallas Cowboys. And so we're looking for your insight here. Hayes and I were just saying, what's going on in Dallas now? So CeeDee Lamb's still holding out. Dak Prescott doesn't have a contract, but every day there's talk about Dak Prescott's lack of a contract. Jerry Jones continues to take the microphone and say things that make you roll your eyes. What do you make of the circus in Cowboy land?
I think that's just normal Tuesday.
Exactly.
I mean, that's Dallas, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the Cowboys, and that's how Jerry has done it for all these years. It's been a high-wire act, circus act, and it's been that way from day one. And it worked really well, where they won those 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. And now we're talking about a team that hasn't been back to an NFC Championship game since that run. which is a staggering surprise to all of us because they've had good football teams. They've had teams that we thought were going to be, worthy of doing that. Last year's team had a chance to go deep, and then they get upset at home by Green Bay. Not just upset, but jumped on. It was one thing to lose a ball game, just rips your guts out, a field goal beats you at the end, and it's hard fought. They got destroyed by a Packers team that no one expected to be in the playoffs in the first place. So they're always having to answer these questions. When's it going to happen? When's it going to come together? And then throw in some contract controversy. This is how I think it plays out. CeeDee Lamb gets signed before the season and plays. Micah Parsons is next in the queue. They figure out a way with Parsons. Dak, I'm not so sure. I get the sense that Dak wants to kind of play this one out and see what else is out there. It's just kind of a feel, just by his comments, by demeanor. He's going to play this year, don't get me wrong. But will they come to a contractual agreement and get it done? I don't know, because, look, the way the numbers are going quarterback-wise, remember, it's not the best quarterback in the league is making the most money as you would expect. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, Mahomes would have all the money right now. Josh Allen would have all the money right now. These guys, are they even in the top 10 in quarterback numbers right now? It's whoever is next in line and has leverage. Trevor Lawrence, would you pay him $55 million just offhand? No. But guess what? Here comes his number. Here comes his time. If we let him go, who plays quarterback for us? Do we believe in the potential? Yes. Jordan Love, essentially 10 good games last year after sitting all that time. His numbers went up. You see where I'm going? Mm-hmm. It's all a matter of timing. Is Dak's timing going to be good enough to get that done for Dallas? One would think so. But they had a chance to get this done 2 years ago and didn't get it done. So I'm not so bullish on Dallas getting it done with him. CeeDee Lamb, yes. Micah Parsons, yes. How they're not getting it done with Dak, I'm not really sure.
With Charles Davis of the NFL and CBS, what about Brandon Aiyuk in San Fran? I can't get a read on this where it felt like it was inevitable he was going to be dealt, and maybe New England was in on it, Pittsburgh was in on it, a number of different teams. And now it sounds like he's just going to work out a deal and get paid a huge amount of money and stay in San Francisco. Like, what do you make of this circus, and do you think it's the right move in the end to pay him a lot of money and stay in San Francisco?
Yeah, the weird part is I predicted he'd stay in San Francisco from day one. I just never saw him done because San Francisco's always had a good track record under Jed York as the owner and John Lynch as the GM and Kyle Shanahan's ultimate decision maker of working things out. Remember when Debo was disgruntled? They worked out, went out. Now they also have to make sure they get Trent Williams back in, the left tackle, because they got to have him. All right, he's the linchpin of that offense. But with Aiyuk, I think you're right. We've kind of run through the permutations. He indicated New England was not a place he wanted to be, so that kind of died. Pittsburgh was in, and then they said, nope, we're out because we don't like the numbers. I think part of it was George Perkins, the wide receiver that's already there. Would he have to move on that? I don't think Pittsburgh was willing to play that one. They got back in, and there's an agreement apparently in place if Aiyuk wants to exercise it. But Aiyuk may very well just eye the fact that San Francisco is right on the cusp. You know what you're getting there. Purdy's going to distribute the ball. If that offense hums like it normally does, you got a chance to catch 100 balls every year. I mean, and compete for Super Bowls. I'm not sure that when it's all said and done that he doesn't wake up, stare at the ceiling and go, you know something? This might still be the place for me. Plus, I'm going to get that money that I was looking for.
Charles, interesting news out of L.A. Chargers camp. Colin Kaepernick's name came up, but not as a potential quarterback. That ship appears to be sailed many years ago. But new coach Jim Harbaugh is talking about bringing in Kaepernick as a coaching staff member. What do you make of that?
He's had a loyalty with him for a long, long time. You guys remember when Colin Kaepernick got the job in San Francisco, Jim Harbaugh was the head coach there. What you may also remember is he got the job after Alex Smith had gone 18 for 19 in a game and had a concussion and couldn't play. And he played Kaepernick and never went back to Alex Smith.
Right.
And they went to a Super Bowl and lost 34-31. He was revolutionizing how we were doing things, right? You remember him running against Green Bay in the playoffs at Green Bay where he's still running? Those types of things started to kick in, and they had a really good mesh in a relationship, and they were winning in a big way. And as a head coach, you don't forget things like that. And if you believe that this is a guy who deserves a chance to do something more than what's happened in previous years, that happens too. You remember when he was at Michigan, he gave Colin Kaepernick a chance to have a throwing day, right? Like a pro day at the Michigan spring game. So he's always been in his camp and had his back. So this doesn't surprise me at all. The interesting part would be if Colin Kaepernick wanted to coach, which we've never gotten the sense that that's something he's wanted to do. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I think for Jim Harbaugh, I don't think he really is that concerned if Colin Kaepernick takes the job. I think he just wanted to support it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we still have you there, Charles. You kind of broke off.
Colin Kaepernick's camp.
You still got us?
Me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. No, all I'm saying is at the end of it, I think Jim Harbaugh just wanted to make sure that the world knew that he was in Colin Kaepernick's camp.
Yep.
And he was supporting him. I highly doubt, truthfully, that Colin Kaepernick takes this job.
How do you think the NFL would respond to that too? Like I think
the NFL would be ecstatic, frankly.
Yeah?
I really do, because everything that it's been through, I think the NFL was really hoping someone would take him and give him a job and kind of get that off the table.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't see where people have kind of lost sleep over the fact that he didn't get back in the league, if that makes any sense. In other senses, it's a cautionary tale. Once again, the guy who speaks out and steps up, a lot of times you're the one that gets sacrificed in the whole deal. Curt Flood at baseball. Everyone's making millions and millions of dollars now because the reserve clause got removed. Who was the person who challenged it the most? Curt Flood. Did he ever play again? No. And he was a tremendous player. Look at Kaepernick and what he challenged in the world and made us look at things. And I think so many people missed the point of what was going on. We turned it into something that it truly wasn't. And the funny part is, you go back to basketball. Remember Chris Jackson, who became Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, playing for the Denver Nuggets?
Yeah.
He was protesting this long before we got to Kaepernick. And the funny part was, when you go back and find out when he quit standing for the anthem to show the protest, it was months before anyone even noticed. He would just sit on the bench, and no one said a word. No one noticed the whole thing. I've always told people, there was a young lady I went to school with back in New York who was Jehovah's Witness. And Jehovah's Witnesses do not stand for the flag and for the anthem and don't do the Pledge of Allegiance and all the other stuff. I would always stand next to her. She was one of our basketball statisticians in high school. I would always stand next to her when she would sit on the road, not because, I was the biggest protector in the world, but she's a classmate, a friend. She had her beliefs, the whole deal. And we did that for 4 years, and there wasn't a single comment anywhere.
Wow.
Nothing. Okay? Nothing. So it all depends on how it comes about, who notices it, what the first spark is, and how you go. Kaepernick did it a few times before anyone noticed. That's just kind of how these things work. But a lot of times, who notices first and what they say about it, that's where the story starts to get written. And that's where we take up sides and take up arms and everything else that goes along with it.
Yeah.
So, that's where we are with Kaepernick. I think the league would be very happy if he came back and coached. I just don't see that that's where he wants to go. I mean, I don't know him well enough. I know him somewhat, but I don't know him in this stretch of his life. I've never heard any conversation about him wanting to be a coach.
Great catching up with you as always. Great insight as always. Thank you for doing this, Charles. We hopefully can do it again down the road.
Thanks for having me, guys, and let's go to the seventh inning stretch now. All right, and a 1 and a 2. Take me. All right, talk to you guys.
There you go. We love it. Charles
Thanks, Charles.
Davis of the NFL and CBS. There's Harry Carey, right?
Pretty good.
He kind of famously made that, take me out to the ball game at Wrigley.
Yes.
That was his thing. Like, he did it on his own, and now it's a celebrity doing it all the time. And
Dynamite drop-in money at broadcast school has really paid off.
yeah, that's Major League. That's
Love it.
Harry Doyle, a.k.a. Bob Uecker, is one of the great personalities in sports ever, too, Bob Uecker. But
How about Charles Davis with the Mr. Belvedere reference?
that one, that is an old school.
I hadn't thought of that in
man.
years.
I forgot about Mr. Belvedere. But yeah, that's a reference. That's pulling serious pop culture references out. I did not see that coming with a question on Matt Milano.
Yes.
Although we were talking about Harry Carey, and I
Yes.
guess he's got a passion for Harry. He's got
Apparently.
a passion for Harry Carey.
Well, you know what?
As he should. Harry Carey was
a
elected.
lot of people in Chicago where the Jays are playing tomorrow certainly do.
Absolutely. Ryan Dempster coming up in about 15 minutes. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel. A little bit later in the hour, Ryan Dempster will join us into the next hour. We'll get more into what Aaron Judge accomplished last night and some of the modern athletes, who are pursuing like Mount Rushmore status within their own organization, but how tough it is to break through.
Oh,
like, I'm not sure it's even possible for Judge to get into the top 4 with the Yankees. I don't think it is. I mean, if he has another 5 or 6 great years and they win a couple of World Series, is it possible? I'm not sure, but you're not passing Babe Ruth. You're not passing, I don't think, DiMaggio or Gehrig or Mantle. I'm not sure you pass Jeter.
Yogi Berra's got 3 MVPs and 10 rings.
Right.
Jeter's got 5 rings.
Yeah, it's tough to beat. So we'll get into that, into the next hour in terms of like modern, like even LeBron with the Lakers. I can't imagine he gets in there. But he did win a title. It's Kobe, Kareem, Magic, probably Jerry West, maybe.
Jerry West, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, he only won, but
if
winning was the problem. And then Wilt.
And Wilt, I guess, was there. You forget that he was the man in L.A. for a while. Yeah, no, exactly.
Elgin Baylor. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, Shaq. How about Shaq? Like Shaq.
Yeah, we not say Shaq?
Yeah,
we'll have to say Shaq.
Yeah, that probably counts too. I don't think LeBron should pass any. I don't think. But
well, he hasn't been there long.
He is LeBron, Maybe he keeps playing for 3 or 4 years. Maybe Bronny turns into an all-time great. And then he gets retroactively boosted in terms of his status with the Lakers.
We have to take back all the jokes about his dad giving him the job.
Yes, that's right. All right, final hour on that and more still to come. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.